It's a pleasure to be here. Uh, and the topic of my talk is integrating thinking skills with language skills in the engineering curriculum. I'm Divya. I've been working at SSN for the past 17 years. And this talk is how I've integrated thinking skills uh, into the language classes that I have taken. So this is how I've presented the flow of my presentation. First, I would be explaining the title and talking about thinking as well as language skills. We would move on to the research question. I would explain the background in which I would also talk about the challenges that I have faced when dealing with language skills, the LSRW skills, or the listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills. The basic idea of the talk is to actually raise an awareness among language teachers and engineering teachers in order to integrate both thinking and language skills into the curriculum. Now, I would like to talk about uh, thinking skills and what I mean by thinking skills, and also language skills. So when you're talking about thinking skills, most of our thoughts are unconscious. A theorist from neuroscience would say that most of thought is unconscious, or 98% of thought is unconscious. So when I'm talking about thinking skills, I'm talking about the conscious effort that we take to think. So it can also be lower order thinking skills, like remember, understand, and imply, and also higher order thinking skills like analyze, evaluate, and create. I know when we're talking about lower order thinking skills, it's underrated a lot. But as we grow older, I feel even the skill like remember becomes difficult. For example, we forget to remember names and things like that. Now, when we talk about critical thinking, two skills that come to our mind are critical thinking and reflective thinking, both higher order thinking skills. I also believe that reflection plays a major role in enhancement of language skills. It's a time that the conscious effort that we take to think and reflect on what we've done or what we're going to do, where we evaluate both the options and then make an informed decision. So when I'm talking about thinking skills, I mean like both the lower order as well as higher order thinking skills. Now we're moving on to the next part of my title, where I'm talking about language skills. It's in a particular order as linguist and theorist of language acquisition would say that this is the order in which skills are acquired in your natural language or your native language. So it starts off with listening, speaking. Later on, we are introduced to reading and writing in school. So this is basically in the natural order in which we acquire the language skills in our mother tongue. But that's not the case with second language. With second language, teachers start actually teaching reading and writing, and that's how a second language is taught, much against the natural order. So we're coming to the basic premise. All of us know in second language education, theorists, educators, researchers all do agree that cognition and language development are closely related. And developing thinking skills may promote higher levels of language proficiency. And learning a language implies learning to think in the target language. There are a few questions that I'm that I would like to answer during the course of my talk. What are the thinking skills needed to acquire LSRW skills? How can English faculty develop the learner's thinking skills? And how can the engineering faculty develop the learner's LSRW skills or language skills? I've actually pasted, I would like to share a document. So during the course of this lecture, you can think of answering. I have put the link to the document. There are a couple of questions that I have asked, which you can take time and answer the questions during the course of my lecture. So when we're moving on to the literature available on thinking skills leading to the development of language skills. So when you're talking about language thinking skills, is always critical thinking that has been well researched. This is the first article that I'm referring to is a review article where they've analyzed the literature of 10 years, and they find that EFL teachers do not have a very complete understanding of critical thinking. And in the course of their article, they do talk about the key strategies that are adopted by teachers in order to enhance the critical thinking skills of students. There are a lot of studies that prove that critical thinking intervention has actually been beneficial for enhancing both critical thinking skills as well as language skills. And one such, I've referred to one such article in this lecture of I'm not very sure with the pronunciation, so I'm saying it's Bag and Gursoy article. They actually did a critical thinking intervention, and they said that it actually enhanced the critical thinking skills of their students. Yeah. So as I've said, like integrating thinking skills into the language classroom has been well researched. The article by Lee suggests that again, the teachers, like when they did a long-term survey about English to find out the English teachers' perspectives on critical thinking skills, they said that the teachers had very little. They even found it difficult to actually define critical thinking. But all of them had a very positive attitude towards integrating thinking skills and language skills in the classroom. They also said that you can enhance thinking skills by introducing critical reading into the classroom. The next study that I'm talking about is not on language teachers. It's on teachers who've actually introduced critical thinking skills into, and it was a extensive survey to find out the teachers' perspectives of introducing critical thinking into their classroom. And they said that they actually introduced critical thinking by integrating into their subjects rather than teaching critical thinking separately. And also they did so by choosing topics that were closer to the students' understanding of the world better rather than from their own subject-specific practices. This is the next part of my talk is on thinking skills that are needed to enhance speaking skills. All of us, I think most of the theorists would believe that it's only when people who can actually think properly can actually speak well during it. So this is one research by Afsar and Rahimi, who spoke about reflective thinking and emotional intelligence actually predict speaking ability of their students. So again, supporting that thinking skills is needed in order to enhance speaking skills. Using debate as a form of enhancing the students' critical thinking skills is done by any language teachers and most of the language teachers. So here in this particular article, Shen et al. Talks about how they actually involve the whole class in in a debate activity, because generally when a debate is done in class, it's only a few students who are selected to do that particular debate. Like they showed us a situation where they introduced online discussion forums and how they actually introduced debate as a whole class activity where all the students were involved in giving arguments and claims for that particular topic that they have discussed.
Divya, I think we cannot hear. I think your computer froze or something. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you
Ah,
already.
sorry. Yeah, okay. I thought there
Okay.
was something.
Okay. So there are also teachers who have explored the idea of exploratory talk in group discussion. And they said that um, uh, students' critical thinking skills actually enhanced using exploratory talk in group discussion. So again, where thinking aloud strategies actually worked and helped out the critical thinking skills of the students. Two studies that explain that. Yeah, so this is again a non-debatable topic where critical reading skills would enhance critical thinking skills. Um, Van and in their article, they have done a systematic review of critical reading skills in higher education, and they've found out that critical reading skills is a much under-researched area, even though there are a lot of studies that are interested in critical thinking, in critical thinking. One such study on critical reading is Din's study, where he actually evaluated the students' critical thinking ability. That is reflected on uh, their critical reading skills. It's a study done in Pakistan. And what they have found out is that the students had a very positive attitude towards critical thinking, and it was a strong predictor of critical thinking ability. But when they evaluated the critical thinking test of these students, they found out that uh, they scored lower in their tests. So when they have evaluated, they found that it is because in most of the Asian countries or uh, places where critical thinking is actually not encouraged. Students learn things by heart or by rote, so it's difficult to actually enhance, to show a really significant improvement in the critical reading test. There's another study done by Wilson where she talks about critical reading, okay, uh, with delicate scaffolding during the critical reading procedure, you can actually develop the critical thinking skills of the students. Now, this is also, I feel, a non-debatable topic where critical thinking skills are developed when students do critical writing. The first article is again a review article which shows how critical thinking can be implemented in the writing classroom. The second article is how the study done on an academic writing course and how they think that critical thinking skill is a crucial step in order to have sustainable higher education in UAE. There are also similar studies like that argue that reflective thinking in EFL writing in an EFL writing course can actually enhance critical thinking skills of the students and can also show improvement in writing. There's also a similar study where uh, they they did on source where they showed two conflicting different sources and showed how actively and open-minded thinking AOT can actually enhance the students' writing skills. I would like to talk about the background where I come from. I teach technical English in the first semester, and it's a skill-based course, uh, basically enhancing the LSRW skills of the students. So I think most of the challenges that we have come across are challenges that most of the teachers will have when you're teaching in India or teaching in an engineering background. The first thing is that as teachers, we face large classrooms. Initially, when I started off my teaching, I had 60 students in my class, and now the number has gone up to 74 students in a class. So it's basically a large class. So enhancing the language skills of students is a very difficult task. The second problem is that we have students coming from different backgrounds. So we have uh, mixed ability students in the classroom. We have students from coming from rural government schools who have studied their subjects in their vernacular medium. So they are vernacular medium students or studied their subjects in their regional language. So you have students coming showing the language skills from an A1 to B1 according to the common European framework of reference. At the same time, we do have students coming from really good English medium schools, and their language skills would range from B2 to C2 on the CEFR framework. So the first problem is large classes, multi-level students. And the third problem that I would like to talk about is insufficient teaching time. We have just 44 hours for this theory of lab course. And so, which means that we would just get 10 to 11 classes for each skill. So as a language teacher, I think 10 classes is not just enough to enhance speaking skills or enhance reading skills or enhance writing skills. So these are the challenges this is the background of our college, and these are the challenges that I face while I teach English for my students. I'm moving on to dealing with listening skills and the challenges that you face when you're teaching listening skills to the students. So as I said, you have a mixed ability of students. So the students that you call that come from the rural government school criteria, who are exposed to very little of listening materials. Their ears are not attuned to listening to anything in English. So they basically struggle with any listening task that is given to them. They have comprehension difficulties. Yeah. And now when we move on to the majority of learners in the scenario, so even among them, there might be two set of learners where a set of learners who are actually attuned to listening materials. They would watch TV programs like Friends, Big Bang Theory, 13 Reasons Why. So there is a set of students who are watching TV programs in English, while there's another set of students who are not willing to watch programs in English. So their listening levels would be on a different scale. Like they might speak well or they might read well, but they might not score good on an IELTS listening test because they're not in the habit of listening. So even with the good learners, like if it's a long video, the students wouldn't be willing to listen to a long video. So they would have attention deficit problems, and they would have concentration problems. And so I would just give you an example of the kind of activities that I do in order to enhance the critical thinking skills of students and enhance the language skill of the students. Okay. So one kind of listening activity that I do uh, is is listening to a TED talk like that of Amy Cuddy. Your body language may shape who you are. The basic idea of teaching this particular, listening to this particular video is teaching them the IMRAD structure. That's introduction, methods, results, and discussion structure. Marked in blue talk about how Amy Cuddy introduces the material. So I would ask them leading questions where during the talk, they would be answering the leading questions that are given over there. The ones in pink talk about the different researchers that she has referred to. And the orange part talks about the methodology that she has used. So this is basically a comprehension task where they have to find out what is there in the lecture and also know about the parts of a journal article, right? The introduction, methods, results, and discussion part, the structure of academic writing. I generally used to teach the IMRAD structure, where I used to explain each part and then tell them what it is. I thought that was a very ineffective way of teaching. It's when I introduced a video, um, a, a talk, a technical talk, rather than a journal article. So if I had given them a journal article, I think it would be difficult for them to follow. So I chose a talk which is much simpler for them to understand. And this is one kind of activity that I've done. It was basically a comprehension-based activity. The second kind of activity that you can that I've introduced is listening to a talk by Sundar Pichai and have a discussion based on the talk. So I've divided the students into 10 groups. I gave each group one particular topic. Now they were allowed to use their mobile phone, surf on that particular topic. They were given 15 minutes to prepare and then make a presentation to the class. So one is a basic comprehension-based activity, and the other one is a more complex activity where they have to surf and find out a solution to the question that is given to them. Now, I think as a language teacher, I can only say that you can enhance the listening skills of students by giving them exposure, plenty of exposure to listening materials. You can also actually design your activities from comprehension-based activities to discussion-based activities. So there's no other goal other than listen to materials. I'm moving on to my next skill and the challenges that we generally face and what actually happens in the classroom. So when it comes to lower proficiency, proficient learners or limited proficient learners, the major problem that they face is linguistic difficulties, like problems with grammar, vocabulary, syntax, and things like that. Even among the the uh, the regular learners, they do have speaking anxiety problems and also performance anxiety problems. most probably when a speaking task is given to them, like they would write down everything sentence by sentence. And more than it becoming a speaking task, what generally happens is that they would do a read aloud, and it's no longer a speaking task, it becomes a read aloud. So in spite of um, uh, in spite of 12 or more than 12 years of training or 18 years of training in English, they don't want to actually perform without a pen and paper in their hands. So there's also performance anxiety that most of the students feel like if they make a slip of the tongue, they're afraid that they'll be made fun of for the rest of their life. So these are the two issues that most of the students face when it comes to speaking. And for a teacher, it's very difficult, especially in a large class, to conduct speaking activities, because a student should be absolutely cooperative enough in order to conduct a speaking activity. This is a research that I have done in 2015 and 16. We did a survey uh, on the uh, on how fast the speaking activities were conducted under Anna University and the affiliated colleges to Anna University. It's alarming results that we got from the survey. We found out that only 40% of the speaking activities prescribed in the syllabus was conducted, while 60% of them was not. The major reason is that even though the skills are being prescribed in the syllabus, the speaking activities are there put out in the syllabus. Teachers would teach to the test. So speaking is not tested at the end semester. So the teachers find it convenient to skip speaking. So the end result is that the students never get a chance to actually speak in the class. I've not mentioned about debate in this, because debate is something that any English teacher would do in a class, because it's an absolutely exciting program. These are the activities that I started doing very early in my career. One particular activity that I do is that I ask them about their favorite TV programs, and I divide them into group, and each group should actually present one TV program. So even though it's a speaking activity, it's encouraging them to listen to a TV program, so that we so that they would actually, in their free time, would actually listen to TV programs, and thus enhance their language skills. So um, another activity that I would like to talk about is asking them to actually find out an invention that changed their life. Again, I would divide them into groups. So when I do group work, I divide the whole class of 60 or 70 into groups of 10. So in each group, they would have um, 6 to 7 students in a class, where they're given time to prepare, and they come up with at the end, uh, they have to discuss and then come up with a presentation. So these are the kind of speaking activities that I've been doing um, for the past years, and these are one of the initial activities that I've been doing. Um, I know it's difficult, as I said, to actually ensure whether speaking is actually conducted in the classroom, because students are reluctant to speak. So the only solution over here is give students plenty of opportunity to speak. Like, one way that I've solved large classes is introducing group work. So I see students only in units of 10 or 11. And so it's easy to actually uh, conduct activities in a classroom when you split them into 10 groups. Uh, the numbers reduced from 70 to 10. So there are 10 people who can perform every day. So by the end of the 7th activity, almost the whole class would have performed. So my suggestion over here is that as language teachers and as engineering faculty. What we are supposed to do is convert our classroom into talking classroom, as Thornbury talks about in his book, How to Teach Speaking. Okay. So something we can all do is maybe at the end of spend some 10 minutes where they can reflect, discuss, and speak on lectures. That's one particular thing. Or they research, discuss, and then speak on the topic of their choice, or topic that the teacher has allotted for them. Yet another way of enhancing the speaking skills, I would say, is that allot marks for classroom participation, then surely students would contribute in the classroom. Yeah. So reading, I think all teachers would agree with me, reading is a challenging task. And there's a lot of research done on higher education that claim that it's only 40% of students joining higher education who can read, while 60% cannot. And there are also a lot of literature that has been said that the students are just at the literal level. They have not gone into the critical reading levels. So if you look at the students, the LEP learners or the limited provision learners, they would basically have reading comprehension difficulties, and they will struggle with technical words and
I think we cannot hear you again, Divya. I think you froze your computer or your screen. Can you hear me? I think there is like something wrong with the connection, I believe. I think maybe she will.
yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, sorry, there was something we just couldn't hear at all. I think you froze on the computer.
Yeah. So can I come?
Yeah, yeah, of course. Yeah, if you can just continue, that would be great. I'm not sure what's going on again. Well, I think we just wait.
Yeah, I'm back. Right.
Great.
Okay. So I'm sharing my screen again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good, but then like it like stopped for some like all of a sudden. So yeah, if you can just continue, yeah, would be great.
Yeah, so I think I spoke about reading skills, and reading skill is a great challenge for teachers. Like you find students refusing to read. So students from the rural background will find reading comprehension difficulties, and they'll also have problem with vocabulary. While students from the mainstream, like even if you give them a book or a journal article to read, they'll find it, they'll think that uh, they're not interested. If they're not interested in the content, they're not motivated to read. And lack of concentration is another thing. So I think I've stressed on the fact that there are a lot of research that say that students joining higher education actually find reading a problem. And there are a lot of students who actually cannot read, almost 60% of the students who cannot read. And most of them are at just the inferential level or the literal level, and they very rarely move on to the critical level. So this is the basic problem that any teacher would face, whether it's engineering or language teacher in the engineering scenario where students are not willing to read. Yeah, I would like to talk about the activities that I generally do in order to enhance the reading skills of the students. The first activity is an activity that students absolutely enjoy doing. They will be asked to choose an article from IEEE Spectrum, and they're also put into groups. They read the article, and when they choose an article, I ask them to choose an article that's not more than a 2-minute or a 3-minute read, so that they can read it then and there, discuss, and then summarize that particular article. The second activity that I do, it's absolutely challenging, and they're asked to go to IEEE Explorer. They're asked to go to the popular section and choose an article, a journal article from that. So basically, I tell them to make a presentation following the introduction, the IMRAD structure. They make a presentation on it. So this is a challenging task for them. Like I would say that some of my students absolutely do the task. They read, they understand, and they're excited about the whole thing. But a lot of students act as if they've not understood the activity, and they choose an IEEE Spectrum article and make a presentation on that. So reading, yeah. So as I said, reading is a challenging task where you find students not willing to read anything, any new material that is given to them. Yeah. So some of the solutions that I have thought about is one is that when you teach students the strategies of reading, they tell me that actually, aren't you teaching us how to cheat in reading? So when you teach them skimming and scanning, and we actually tell them not to read. So I think students find it very difficult to read. So I think teachers should introduce more intensive reading activities where they can read and enjoy the words and sentences in that, and have a discussion based on it. For lower proficiency learner or limited English proficient learners or LAP learners, I would suggest reading while listening, because that would train them to actually read with the help of an audio support. So as teachers, I think we should introduce them to a lot of books and make them do individual presentations and team presentations on book reading. Something that I saw while I was researching on designing a reading course, I came across a course in Princeton University, where they have designed a course based on the research interest of the students, where the student and the faculty decide on the books and articles that they are supposed to read. And it was a 1-credited course where the student was given credit for spending time reading that particular book. So I thought it was a wonderful thing that teachers, engineering teachers, can adopt for their students. So I'm almost coming to the end of my presentation. So the last skill is writing skills. As a language teacher, and I think even as an engineering teacher that you might have faced, is that for limited proficiency, proficient learners, LP learners, they face a lot of linguistic difficulties. They find trouble with vocabulary, sentence structure, and syntax and things like that. While the other students, the basic challenges that they would face is lack of subject knowledge. They would spend a lot of time researching and surfing and would not put anything down on paper. Lack of ideas is another challenge that most of them face, and then refusing, or writer's block, or not being able to write. I think I've kind of solved this problem when I have introduced free writing into my classes. I absolutely write free writing because I think it is like celebrating the thinking process that we have. So I tell my students it's internal dialogue that's going on in their head. It's just translating their internal dialogue onto paper. So free writing is a kind of writing that if you do it right, then definitely the students can actually enjoy the art of writing. So I tell them you have to dedicate almost 10 or 5 minutes a day to spend on writing. They have to write as fast as they can. They cannot take their pen off the paper. Uh, they don't stop for anything. They can write. They don't have to. They can forget about grammar, spelling, and everything, and just write as much as they can. The requirement is never to stop. So it's only when I've introduced, like in 2017, when I introduced free writing into my classes, like I always get the philosopher's look where they look there in the open and stare, and you have a blank sheet of paper on your in front of you. It's when I introduced free writing that I really saw my students actually writing, right? So this is something that we can all introduce in our classroom to actually see students writing. So I think free writing is something that you can actually introduce on a day-to-day basis. Like you can just spare 5 minutes of your class and ask them to actually reflect on your lecture. You can ask them leading questions on your lecture, and they can do a free write for 5 minutes or 10 minutes. And then later on, you can also introduce speaking there, like where they speak on their reflections. So you're basically introducing both writing as well as speaking in the same task that is given to them. A very similar activity is read on a particular topic, and then they give them time to free write and then speak on their reflection. So the basic idea of this talk is to create awareness, ways in which language teachers and engineering teachers can introduce thinking skills and language skills into their classroom. So it's basically to create awareness over here. I know it's time for discussion. I have posed 2 questions. I'm willing to answer any question that is given to me. Right? We can also have a discussion on how what are the things that you do in order to develop your learners' thinking skills, and what are the things that you've done in order to develop your students' language skills. Okay, we can have a very fruitful discussion on it.
Thanks, Divya. Thanks for interesting presentation, and thanks for sharing your knowledge and experience. You have had like many papers published, right? I've noticed that you have like several papers cited in this presentation, so that's well done. Congratulations. Let's see if we have any questions from anybody from the audience. Anybody would like to ask? If you want to ask, you can either write a question in the chat or use your mic and ask the questions. I have a few questions. So kind of general questions. You said that your classes are very big, 60, 70 students, and you have to divide them into groups of like 10 students, right? So you get, so
Five
when
5 to 7.
yeah, 5 to 7. So when you teach them, right, so you kind of give them some task, and then they like work in groups, they talk to each other in the group, but do they also talk to you? Like, do they also present in front of everybody? So how do you like do it? Because if there are so many students, and probably like you have maybe like 1 or 2 hours class, so how do you like make it work so that everybody can speak? Because some of them don't even want to speak, right? Some of them just want to kind of sit quietly and like I don't know, maybe play with their phone or something like that. I don't know. So what's your thought about that?
Yeah. So now for us over here, it's a 50-minute period that we talk about. So maybe the first 10 minutes, I might introduce a task and do a little bit of brainstorming. I give them 15 minutes to discuss in their groups. And the remaining 20 minutes, like you have 10 groups, each group gets 2 minutes to make a presentation. 1.5, I would say 1 to 1.5 minutes to make a presentation. And then I have a small winding up session at the end. So it's 10, 15, and 20 minutes for presentation. So it's only one person from the group that would come and present before the whole class. And they would take turns. So like when you give each activity, like the first activity would be one person presenting. The next day it would be another person from the group presenting. So I'd say that all of you complete one activity, and then you can go on for the second round of activities. So that's how it basically works. Right?
Okay.
And
Yes.
you might ask me a question, for example, why are you giving activities then and there? Why aren't you asking them to prepare and come, right? So whenever I've given a task where they have to prepare and come, it never works. So only things that happen in class, uh, only discussions that happen in class do work. So that's the reason why I've not given them tasks to prepare and come.
Mm.
Impressive.
I was going to ask you actually a different question on that one, but when they do this group discussions activities, do you actually like mark them? Do you give them like a mark for each of those tasks? Like, do they get some kind of credit at the end of the course? So, how does it work? So, do they like are they being assessed by you at some point?
Yes. So now, according to like we are an autonomous institution now. Now we have introduced like speaking has been as a task that we actually uh, assess, and we have like part of the assessment procedure would be half of them would be classroom participation activity and half would be testing activity. So when they participate in the classroom, they get marks for uh, classroom participation also. Like this was a new uh, this was introduced after we became an autonomous institution where we
Mm,
had right to the assessment procedure, right, where we could design our own assessment procedure.
I see. So like they do get some marks for doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's very good. I think it's a very good idea. And anybody else wants to ask questions? Because I just keep asking questions. Maybe somebody else would like to. Um, nope, nobody else. Um, when you talk about technical skills, right? When they like write technical articles, so do they have enough English skills to read technical articles? Because if they don't have like good English skills, so they probably cannot even like read like more like advanced like technical stuff, right? Is this correct or not?
Yeah, as I told you, right, you have a mixed ability students. So there are students in the class, I would say 40% of the students who can absolutely read and write and understand any article because they have been used to reading and writing in English right from the school onwards. So now if it's a first year course, they do have science subjects uh, uh, that are uh, that are that are done in English, so they do not find any difficulty over there.
Mm,
But there is a minority of students. I would say 20% of the students who find it very difficult. Gradually, like when they start off, they find it very difficult. But I think when they move on to the third year, you find these students actually graduating with really good GPA. So they kind of pick up uh, during the course of 3 years.
mm. Right. Um, you were saying that students don't really like reading technical articles. And I probably know why, because when I read technical articles, it's actually like very boring. I cannot like read like technical articles after like 1, 2 minutes. I feel very sleepy and I cannot read them too. So
Yeah.
maybe also like when there is like something technical, because there are like many technical terms that they probably don't know, so they have to check it in the dictionary. So I think that probably like makes it very like not even boring. It's also kind of makes it like a time-consuming activity, and probably
Yeah.
that's why they don't like it. I
Yeah.
don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I have actually introduced them like once to a website where Cambridge has given a lot of books, suggested a lot of books for engineering graduates. And I did a lot, like some of the books were freely available online. PDF copies were freely available. So I did give the students these books to read. Like, so some of the books were actually very interesting for the students, but some of the books were not uh, were things the context in which the students would not understand. So they were based on engineering problems in UK, and they were based on engineering problems in US, which the students
Okay.
found it very difficult to understand. So, and
Mm,
it was of no interest to them because they're coming from a different background. So, I have not found out texts uh, which uh, which talk about Indian problems in engineering. So, so
you have to
the
write one
context is very
yourself.
important.
Yeah. Are there any questions? Um, okay, how about then I'll maybe ask maybe then the like final question. So do students use kind of like software, like because now
Yeah,
some people use AI, right, to like write stuff.
yes.
So if you like give them some like things like to do at home, like homework, they can
Yeah.
probably ask that the software to write it for them, because you can write it at a different level of English. You can say like perfect English, or I don't know, like English from like sixth grade in high school or something like that. So I think it now like becomes very powerful. So do you have any issues like that, or like something that you would like to share with us? Yeah, like your experience, how you deal with that?
Yeah. So generally, when writing assignments are given, I always float a Google Doc. So it's not what they write. So I float a Google Doc, and then I make them write on Google Docs. So
Okay.
till I think till recently, there were difficulties in completing the assignment. But after ChatGPT came into the picture, like last year or so,
Hmm.
I think all my assignments are done like regularly and on a day-to-day basis. They are updated on a day-to-day.
So that's
So
like how they do it.
yeah, you cannot, yeah. So students have, and they come up with really, like, I think ChatGPT is doing a really good job in answering all my assignments. Some of the assignments that I give them, like, I think he has no clue. Like, then there's a problem, like, there's a problem for students to actually do that particular activity. But most of the activities, I think
Mm.
ChatGPT can do most of the activities.
Yeah,
So
that's
I
true.
think we have to go a little deeper and ask them to actually analyze what ChatGPT has done and how they can actually improve upon that particular writing. So that's the only option then. But I think speaking is still there. Speaking has not been hijacked, but writing definitely has been hijacked by AI.
Mm. Yeah, that's true. Well, we have kind of similar problems here at Griffith. Also, we have international students who would come and study at Griffith. So, like study, like let's say, engineering. So, if they come from a different country where they don't speak English, so they actually like must take one English class. So that's part of the program. So I think, well, I don't know exactly what they teach there, because I've never been to such class. Maybe I should go and see what, but they also probably teach them some kind of grammar and how to speak and stuff like that. So we also want to help our students. Um, Another thing that we find it's a little bit difficult when like we try to help students. So if they're from like one country, so what they do, they like tend to talk to each other in like their like country's language. So even though like they come to our classes, speak English when they go home because they have friends from the same country, so they don't really like speak English to each other. They speak their own language. So in this case, they may not improve, even though we try to give them all these tasks and activities and try to support them. But this is what we can also find here. So I think only like when they like want to like really become like part of like let's say like culture that we have here, so and talk to like people not only from their country, so that's when they actually improve their English a lot, and we can tell. So that's what happens here. I mean, probably like same thing like in like every country. It's not only here at Griffith. Right.
Yeah, we have students from different speaking different languages. Like, so we have not from different countries, from the same country,
Yeah, yeah,
having different languages.
yeah.
So
I see.
that's our peculiarity.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your time. We're actually already like a little bit over time. We're supposed to finish a bit earlier before out. So thanks a lot for very interesting presentation, sharing your experience and all these activities that we may also think to implement. And it's also like good to know what other people deal with, what kind of problems they have, so that if we have same problems, so maybe we can do kind of similar things. I've seen that you also show like many references. I think that would be like a good thing for those who like wanna like help their students improve their English. Thanks for your time. Thanks for interesting presentation, and thanks everybody for attending the presentation. So have a nice day then, and yeah, we'll probably see you in the future webinars.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye, everybody.